Thank you so much for tuning in. Ash here with another video. Welcome to Scent Trails. If it's your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe if you like fragrances. And to my returning viewers and subscribers, I want to thank you guys so much for the support. It really means a lot. So as you can see from the title, today we're going to be doing a top 20 leather fragrances from my collection. Of course, fragrance is subjective, so these are not the best in the world by any means or anything like that. Without further ado, let's get right to it because I don't want this to take forever. So the number 20 fragrance on this list is this one here. It's called The Red Room by Matriarch, and it's discontinued. You can no longer find this fragrance, but I had to put it on this list because it is a leather fragrance. Now forgive me guys, I'm a bit of a fanboy of this house, as you're going to see here. So for number 19, again, we're House of Matriarch. This is Sex Magic, and this fragrance is another strange one, actually. The opening is, I want to say it's rather deadly, at least for the first like 15-20 minutes. It does settle down a lot after that and becomes really nice, but it's very smoky and woody and a bit leathery. The leather is not the most dominant part of this fragrance, more the woods, but it does have some leather and it does accent the woods very nicely, and this is quite an intriguing scent if you ask me. It's very much a cold weather fragrance, as most of these are. When this one dries down though, it does get much smoother and much more appealing and much more wearable. It's just the opening of this fragrance. Again, it may just be my bottle. I think I may have left it in the heat once or twice. It's not a bad fragrance by any means. So that was number 19. Number 18 on this list is going to be a Tom Ford fragrance. I don't have a bottle of this. I do have this decant from FragranceNet, and it's white suede. It's a very inoffensive, very clean white leather fragrance, very suede-like. No animalic nuances really. I mean, it's very subtly leathery, and it's not very smoky or anything like that. Very easy to wear. Again, this is the type of fragrance that you'd want to wear when you just want to smell clean, or for even a more intimate occasion, for closer encounters. I think that it'd be kind of hard to go wrong with this one, just depending on the person that you're with. They might find this too boring or meh. I definitely think it's worth a try. I feel like it's a bit overpriced for what you're really getting. I mean, it's a rather simple fragrance, and it's just kind of clean, a little bit leathery. But overall though, I love the concept behind this fragrance. Number 17 on the list is going to be from the house of Memo Paris. No, it's not African leather. That would be on this list if I had that one. But this one's really nice as well. And it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I actually have gotten quite a lot of compliments with this fragrance. I'm talking Russian leather. So Russian leather is basically a fresh, piney, I want to say a little creamy kind of leather. So this is probably one of the most wearable leathers from Memo Paris. Besides, I would also say French leather. African leather is very wearable too, but maybe a little bit more for cooler weather. This one you can pull off in slightly warmer weather. This is very potent and it will last you a long time. And it will definitely get you some compliments if that's what you're after. Now this next one here, it's not dominant in the leather. However, there is a leathery nuance to it, and it's very different from everything else on this list. This one would be more suitable for warmer weather. And I did mention this in my top 10 summer niche fragrances. This is from storeskugen. It's called Sylphium. Alright, love the bottles. Forgive my shaky shoulder. Had a bit of a shoulder injury lately and still recovering. This is a very bright, citrusy, spicy, zingy, kind of sharp fragrance with a bit of a leathery tone to it, and a few other ingredients. I believe also myrrh. I'm not sure if myrrh and frankincense, but I know that there's myrrh in here. It's very much an attention-grabbing citrus fragrance. Like, it literally reaches out and grabs people. That's how sharp and bright that it is. Definitely one worth checking out. I'm going to do my best to leave links in the description box of where you can find all of these fragrances. Of course, there are a few that you just cannot find anymore. Number 15 on the list is a more well-known leather fragrance that came out a while back, and then it was discontinued, and then they brought it back in a different packaging at a lower price. You might know what I'm talking about. Yes, it is Tom Ford's Ombre leather. And okay, this is extremely potent. It's rather sweet. This is like an in-your-face leather. However, in the cold weather, this one works really well. I've gotten quite a few compliments on this one. It is very bold and potent, so you might want to be careful wearing this to work or in an office setting or something like that. I believe there's blackberry in here. I mean, there is some similarity to Tuscan leather, but this kind of goes in a different direction. I've even received 2 really good compliments on the same day. So number 14 on the list is a fragrance I hear almost no one talking about, and this fragrance, this is subtle. It's not overly leathery, but to me it is apparently leathery. This is from a brand called Parfums Drake, and it's Mandrake. Mandrake is kind of a fruity leather fragrance. It's not overpowering. It's also not overly mature. It does have a playful side to it. I get more of like a apricot type of fruiting here, maybe apricot peach-ish with the leather accord, as well as a few other things, but I really like it and it's gotten me a few nice compliments. This would lean more on the more youthful side of leather fragrances. It's not in your face or super strong leather. However, it is rather noticeable and somewhat potent. I would say moderate strength. Definitely worth a try. This next fragrance, number 13 on the list, should be much higher up because it's a very artistic and unique leather fragrance. And the concept behind this just has me floored, but honestly, I think this is a very particular leather fragrance with notes of hay. And what's weird to me is I get a metallic vibe from this fragrance, which I really, really like. It kind of reminds me of going to battle on a horse and with a sword and armor and all that stuff. This is another one from House of Matriarch. It's called Destrier. Alright. To me, at least, it's a very warm, hay-like and metallic leathery fragrance. It's a little earthy. It's not sweet at all. I mean, maybe a hint. If there's any sweetness in this fragrance, it's really hiding. This is definitely more of a mature leather fragrance. For the connoisseurs out there, for you guys who really like your leather fragrances, you really have to try that one out. So number 12 on the list is a fragrance that I've heard maybe 1 or 2 people talk about, and it's really hard to describe. It's weird. It's just something about it I really like. This is from Byredo. It's called Accord Oud. And yes, I know there's oud in the name, but apparently there's no oud in here. And it does have blackberry, just like ombre leather. Compared to ombre leather, this is much less sweet. It's still a little sweet. It's very dark, almost has a nutty kind of vibe to it, and leathery. Kind of strange, but also kind of enticing. Number 11. I have 3 fragrances that I don't have bottles of in this list. This is one of them. I do have just a small sample of it, but it's Black Tourmaline from Olivier Bourbon. And this fragrance, I actually just retested it on my wrist right now. And to put it simply, this is a very, very smoky fragrance with a bit of a, I want to say a slight bit of a soapy, clean kind of vibe to it in a really nice way. And it's also a leathery fragrance, but the leather is not overly pronounced like in some of these other fragrances. This is just more of a very smoky fragrance, a little bit leathery. I believe there's some incense in here as well, and as well as some other ingredients. You know, it's a little spicy, it's a little bit sharp and smoky, but it does settle down, you know, within 30 minutes or so of wearing it. Becomes much smoother, and it does retain this kind of clean vibe, which I really like about it. Definitely gonna get me a bottle of this. Alright guys, so let's crack into the top 10. So this number 10 fragrance is from the brand Imaginary Authors. It's a rather challenging fragrance you may have heard of. It's called Slow Explosions. Right, and this is a boozy, leathery fragrance. There's some apple in here, a little bit sweet, but it's also, I want to say, a little bit sour or bitter. Personally, I love it. I actually want to get me a full bottle of this. This fragrance is a bit challenging. It's very bold, it's rather unique, and it's very loud. This will definitely grab some attention, maybe even some unwanted attention. Now, my number 9 fragrance is a very new acquisition for me. I've wanted to get this for a really long time. Finally got my hands on it, and I just retested it right now just to make sure, it's spot in the line. I wanted to make sure that this is as accurate as possible. So yes, it is very new, but I've had some experience with it, at least enough to know where I would put it on the list. It's from Olfactive Studio, and it's called Chambre Noire, or Darkroom. So this is a boozy, leathery fragrance, just like Slow Explosions, but much less sweet than that one. You do get a hint of sweetness with this fragrance. It's very dark in the profile. Something about this I really like. Now, I know that a lot of people are not a big fan of this, and I completely understand. It's a bit strange. I think it's worth a try if you're looking for something rather different for the colder weather. I would say this is one of the least challenging fragrances in the top 10. With that being said, yes, the top 10 are very challenging. I would say on average a bit more challenging than the number 11 through 20. So number 8 on the list is going to be from the house of Rasasi. This is La Yukawan. And this is a clone of Tuscan leather, if you may already know that, and I do hate to include clone fragrances in these kind of lists. But this fragrance, it's relatively well priced. I mean, it's not super cheap. It's around the $60 to $80 mark, roughly. At least when I got it, it was right around 80 bucks. And this one smells nearly identical to Tuscan leather, however, much stronger and a bit more polarizing than that one, which is already a bit polarizing. It's a bit more smoky and stronger than Tuscan leather. Very similar, but again, I believe Tuscan leather is a bit smoother than this one, which is a good thing, and doesn't last as long as this, but it still has a very good lasting power. I mean, if you get it on your clothes, it will last weeks. But it's a very sweet and dry, smoky, raspberry leather fragrance, and I really like it personally. On my number 7 spot is the last sample in this list, one that I definitely need to buy a bottle of. And this was one of the first fragrances from the house of Matriarch that grabbed my attention, and it's not a leather dominant scent. This is more of a white floral with a note of snake leather. Alright, and it's this one here. It's called Forbidden. Obviously, I have a lot of House of Matriarch fragrances, and I have much more than these. There's, I don't know, 6 or 7 on this list, so forgive me, I am a bit biased towards that house, I'm not gonna lie. But this one is rather a dangerous fragrance because, first of all, it's gonna come off a little feminine to some people, at least in the air. But as you get closer to this fragrance, you realize it's very bold and strong and potent, maybe even a bit masculine. You have notes like mushroom, papyrus, snake leather, tuberose. So the tuberose is like punching you in the face when you spray this, but honestly, when it settles down, this fragrance is quite incredible. I would say that it's a very sexy fragrance, but again, it's not going to be at all everyone's cup of tea. It's very tuberose heavy, a little spicy, leathery. I get that kind of mushroom vibe from this, as well as some other things, which made number 7 on my list. Now, number 6, according to the ingredients online, there are no leather notes, leather accords, or anything like that listed in the description for this fragrance, but I definitely get a leathery vibe from this fragrance. It does have birch tar in here, It's considered very green and aromatic, or should I say more aromatic, a little bit green, a little herbal, to me leathery and kind of vegetal. It's from Tower Perfumes and it's called Lone Star Memories. Alright, this one is a bit strange when you first smell it, but honestly, for the price that you pay for these fragrances, to me this is like the best bang for your buck for a very artistic fragrance. This is one of those that it didn't grab me right away in the beginning, but I retried it multiple times, and each time I did it, it grew on me a little more, and now I absolutely love it. It does have a good lasting power for an eau de toilette. It's rather strong and potent, especially in the beginning, but it does get much smoother, like a lot of other fragrances. You know, as you're wearing it, I'd say within the 20-30 minute mark, maybe 40 minutes, it's gonna settle down quite a bit, but it's still gonna be noticeable. Now we're cracking into the big boys. Top 5, all right? Number 5, again, I hope you guys don't hate me for doing this, all right? But some people got a bunch of Creeds in their collection. I have a bunch of House of Matriarch fragrances. This is Black Number 1, all right? And this is quite possibly one of the best leather fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. It's very complex. There are over 300 ingredients in this fragrance. And it's got so much going on, but basically you're getting a leather fragrance with every nuance you can think of. I mean, it's a bit spicy, earthy, it's a little sweet, it's dark, it's a little smoky. It's also got a bit of a freshness to it once it sits on the skin. It does have a very, very vintage vibe to it, maybe even ancient. This does remind me of something like a pharaoh would have worn, and it literally smells like a recovered treasure from 5,000 years ago. To me, it resembles fragrances when they were very first invented. Truly dark, extremely mysterious. Something about it though is out of this world. I mean, now number 4 is going to be another strange one. It's a very challenging fragrance, but it has gotten me a few compliments. Surprisingly, I mean, I had a girl come up to me and ask me for my number when I was wearing this, if that means anything. I mean, it's not like a very mass appealing kind of fragrance. It's very dark. So this is from Tower Perfumes, and you can't tell the name of it by this. I took off the little tag that was on it, but this is Lonesome Writer. Right, so Lonesome Writer is basically a leathery fragrance with iris in it and some other stuff going on, but basically you're kind of getting punched in the face with a leather, a creamy iris, and it's a little spicy. It's a little dry also, and it's not sweet at all. I mean, you're talking, if there's any sugar in here, it's like 1 to 2%, maybe. A very daring fragrance, but definitely one you should try. If you're a connoisseur, you're missing out by not trying that one. And it's one of those that's gonna be very particular to your taste. Now the top 3, this was a little bit difficult to do, honestly, to put this whole list together. 20 leather fragrances, I mean, not easy. This is a relatively newer acquisition on the list. It's from Carner, Barcelona, and it's Sandor 70s. I have not really had that much experience with this, but I have tested it out from a sample a few times. This is a much more wearable leather fragrance that's rather different than a lot of the other ones. So it's also very complex. It does have tobacco in here, and I believe some incense, as well as some spices and some florals. I had to test it out again just to kind of make sure. When you first apply it, it is a bit more potent, but it does settle down rather quickly. I would say within about 10-15 minutes, at least on my skin, it does settle down, become much smoother. It's a very nice, appealing, classy, and sexy leather fragrance with style. It's not very smoky. I would say maybe starts off a bit smokier, but then it does become more subtle of a smoke. So it's really not overly smoky. So it ends up being a very smooth, leathery, and tobacco and incense fragrance. Love that one. I want to thank Fragrance Boss for that one because that's how I heard of it. So number 2 is a fragrance that is discontinued, and this fragrance was gone completely, and I actually inquired directly to the house to see if they had any of it available or if they will ever get it again. And they got back to me like a few weeks or a month or 2 later, something like that. And they said, you know what? We have one left. I was like, send me the info. I'm paying for it. I want it. And it was a bit pricey, maybe not worth the money, but to me it was, because I know that you cannot get this anymore at all. That's why it's a bit unfortunate that it's on this list. You can't find it. It's different than all the other leather fragrances I have. It's from the house of Matriarch again, and I really wish they still made this. If they did, I'd buy some more of it for sure. You guys should really bring it back if you're watching this. So anyways, this fragrance is from House of Matriarch, and it's called Lucid. What can I say about this fragrance? This fragrance does open up a bit funky, and I want to say a little bit animalic and almost kind of like dirty and plasticky. I know all that sounds bad, but this is not a bad fragrance, and the way it develops is incredible. All of those nuances I just mentioned basically disappear. It only ends up being just ever so slightly funky, like in the best way possible. The plastic is gone. Between 5 and 15 minutes, all those nuances are going to be nearly gone. This is a white leather fragrance. I want to say it's somewhat suede-like, but it's also a little bit animalic. Not so smoky. I mean, if it's smoky, it's maybe a hint there. It's also very kind of basic in the structure of this fragrance, at least the way it comes off to me. It may be kind of complex in the number of ingredients that it has, but the way that it develops to me, it just becomes very smooth, simple, clean white leather with a little bit of a dirty edge to it in the best way possible. Man, I really wish they would bring that one back. Now, number 1 on my list, I had to put this fragrance on number 1 because to me this is just one of my absolute favorite fragrances of all time to date. This is probably my number 3 fragrance from everything that I have. This fragrance, when I first tried it out again, I had a bad feeling about it. I was like, oh no, did I make a wrong decision? Because I had bought a little travel atomizer of it, which was a little bit pricey, but not too bad. You know, I got it discounted from House of Matriarch. Okay, there's the giveaway. It's not a fragrance that is dominant in leather, but to me it does have a very noticeable leather vibe. It's a white floral fragrance. It's also gourmand. It's a little bit strange, but man, is it one of the best fragrances ever. It's called The Longing. To put it simply, this is a magic potion in a bottle. It literally smells like it was made by a wizard. When you get used to this, it's a very intoxicatingly delicious fragrance. This is gourmand, mature, not overly mature, but in like the sexiest way possible. It's just edible. I mean, this is like what your dream woman smells like. Or man, it's extremely potent, like very, very, very potent. I mean, if you get some on your clothes, it will last at least a week or so. For a fragrance that is very high in natural ingredients, this just has incredible lasting power and projection. You're talking maybe 3 to 4 hours of pretty decently strong projection. If you like strong fragrances, if you like fragrances that are a little sweet, leathery, white floral, gourmand, give this a try. This might be one of your new favorites. And if you do try it, let me know. Number 1 for a reason. There you have it, guys and girls. If you have 1 to 3 fragrances, leather-based fragrances that you really enjoy, definitely let me know. Feel free to drop that in the comment box below. If you have any other questions or anything like that, let me know. If you liked the video, don't forget to give me one of these. And feel free to share it if you think anyone can benefit from this, or if you know anyone who's looking to get into leather fragrances. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe. Again, I really appreciate you guys. Alright, it's been a pleasure, and I'll be back soon with another video. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.